Game 18 of the ongoing ODI World Cup saw Australia keep the nerve to register a much-needed 62-run win over Pakistan in a close contest at Bangalore's Chinnaswamy Stadium. Helped by brilliant centuries from Warner and Marsh, who scored their first tons in the 2023 campaign, Australia blasted a Pakistani attack that didn't see the fielders put up a great show. No fewer than 5 dropped catches, coupled with one too many extras, allowed the Australians to get away to a world record ODI score against Pakistan in the World Cups. All right. In reply, barring Imamul Haq, the opener with a fluent 50, not too many Pakistani batsmen were able to dig deep to get close to what anyways was a huge task. Barring the left-hander's 70, only Rizwan was able to make something of the Australians' mighty attack. Given a 46, Adam Zampa with a 4, that was too big a task for Pakistan. Now we have a huge double-header coming up today, where Sri Lanka faces the Netherlands on one hand, while the defending champions England face the Proteas. I'm joined by eminent guest Annie Shave and Georgie Heath from England, and my in-house guest in the studio, Tasmeen Granger and Dev Tyagi. First, let's go on to our friend from England, Annie. Annie, you work with BBC and the other, you watch county cricket very closely, and you know what's happening at the England squad. Who do you think enters the game with more pressure? Is it the England for the lukewarm table positioning, or South Africa, who just got humbled by a significantly less experienced side?
I think they're both under pressure, but South Africa are currently third and England are only fifth. So South Africa obviously have the upper hand. They've also won 2 and England have only won 1. So the difference is England really need a win, and South Africa, you know, want to put that humiliation behind them, and they're not in such a desperate need as England to win. So I think it's going to be a humdinger of a match, and I'm looking forward to it.
What about Jos Buttler? Isn't his form troubling the English fans because there's no significant score, or maybe 50s coming from his bat?
Jos is a fabulous player. He's still early days with his captaincy role, though. So yeah, I think he's under a bit of pressure. That said, last World Cup, early days he got a century, he got a 50, and then he didn't contribute to a lot scoring shots for a little while, and then until the final, of course, where he got that wonderful score and helped to win. But he's also only going in at number 6, and you'd expect the 5 in front of him, ahead of him, to get the lion's share of the runs. So yeah, I honestly think he's fine. And I would expect him to contribute big time sometime. And hey, it may be against India.
Well, thank you. That was Annie. Let's move our focus to our in-house guest right now. Tasmeen, what do you think of the match right now? What is the score?
Current score right now is the Netherlands are 57 for the loss of 3 wickets after 14 overs. Batting at the crease, they have Teja Dinamanaru and Bastily.
Anil Teja. Well, Martin Kriek, the former Dutch cricketer and the founder of Wesse Bank, joins us live from Netherlands. Hi, what do you think is Netherlands doing right now? Previously, they've beaten Sri Lanka in an ODI. Can today be the big day or another upset? Your views?
A victory today against Sri Lanka, would that be another upset, or is it just the Dutch continuing their good performances?
Right.
I sure hope that they can put in another good one and repeat the performance from the last game. The team is coming together very well. I think Ryan Cook has done an amazing job with the team so far. A process that started 2 summers ago and is really now showing some good results. Yes, Sri Lanka has always been a tough opponent, both in the World T20s as well as in the ODIs. But hey, I've got a good feeling about this one today, and I actually would not consider it an upset.
Well, you've got a good feeling, and so do the Holland fans out here. Vikramjit, Scott Edwards, Bastilleed, all have been among runs. Where do you think that Max O'Dowd is missing out, or is the other players still missing out on the party? Your views?
Now, we've seen Scott, Colin and Bas all among the runs. I guess we're still waiting for Max to produce his runs, but I'm not worried at all. Max is in fact one of only 2 players who started their career with 3 ODI 50s. Pub quiz question who the other one is. And he's just a top quality performer. On top of that, Max brings so much more to the team than just his runs. He's a great presence on and off the field. He energizes the team, and his next big innings is, I think, only around the corner. Hopefully today.
Well, there was the former Dutch player talking about team's chances. Now we move on to our another international expert, Georgie Heath, the multi-sports journalist and the host of Women's Cricket Chat, is joining us live from England. Georgie, welcome and good morning to the show. How big news is this that Ben Stokes returned for the SA game? Can he be under pressure as he's not played a game so far in the World Cup? Your views?
Someone like Ben Stokes returning to any side is always going to be a positive. Just everything that he brings to it. It's not necessarily just how he plays, but it's his bravado. He is the kind of knight in shining armour that we've seen come to the party so often for England. He's that kind of man we need. You know, when you're in the trenches, you want someone like Ben Stokes who can come through and help you fight. And England are in a really tricky situation at the moment. Stokes obviously came out of retirement for this tournament, so it was thought, you know, he'd be there, he'd be that sort of linchpin, that real gritty fighter in the middle overs, in there with the bat. But after that hip injury in the gym before the first game, he's been out for 3 games, but coming back in, yes, really exciting. But I think we can't just rely on one man. That's the whole point. There's 11 men out there on the field. It can't just be Ben Stokes, and we can't expect him to do everything. We know he can, and he has done it before, but the others need to turn up to the party, which they haven't really done so far this tournament.
Well, you can't rely on Ben Stokes alone. Very well said, Georgie. Last question to you. South Africa have been one of the better well-rounded teams in this tournament. Where do you think their big weakness is from England's perspective?
Look, when it comes to South Africa, until that game against the Netherlands, where, I mean, let's be honest, we were kind of all rooting for the Netherlands. Everyone loves an underdog story. Maybe because I'm English, I just love an underdog story. But they did look like the team to beat. They were sort of given that favourites label. And that's something that doesn't ever seem to ride too well with South Africa. As soon as that happens, it's sort of a bit like, oh no, here we go again. But I think need to exploit their weaknesses, which is if their top 3 don't fire with the bat, England really need to take advantage of that. Yes, they've got this phenomenal bowling attack, but England have a phenomenal batting lineup, so that's going to be a really exciting matchup. This tournament's been interesting because so often captains win the toss and they don't go on to lose the game. Just up until now, still in the middle of the Australia-Pakistan game at the moment, but captains winning the toss have only won 5 of the games, so that will be an exciting prospect to see what they do when they see that pitch in Mumbai tomorrow.
Well, what we see on the pitch in Mumbai, what we see here will determine the score that we are expecting. Dev, my guest in the studio. Dev Tyagi, what do you think will go for England if they were to chase a big total, or will they put up a big total? Where do you see their strength is?
England's big strength, of course, is the pace trio of Reece Topley and Chris Wokes and Mark Wood. They are quick. They have the kind of line and length adjustments that would put a dominant attack like South Africa under pressure. And let's not forget a very, very talented and a very, very handy as well as understated spinner in Adil Rashid, who was actually picked 20 or 21 ODI wickets against South Africa. Having said that, the pitch that England play South Africa on, they would be wary of what South Africa did back in time, 2015, at the Wankhede. They actually put 438 on the board against India. They mauled India. There were 3 centuries, one each from A.B. de Villiers, Francois Faf du Plessis, of course, and the great Quinny de Kock.
What about the batting lineup? Do you think that seems to be a little bit of a worry for England right now?
With the runs not coming from Jos Buttler's bat, of course, as the great Annie Schaaf said, there could be a concern. But again, you have a classic player, very, very handy opponent in the form of Joe Root, an exceptional player. He's made north of 600 ODI runs against South Africa. You have David Malan, who's in amazing form, a great batsman right up the order. And then, of course, if Stokes actually makes it to the playing 11, then, of course, you have a player whose highest score against South Africa is 89, which actually came in the 2019 World Cup campaign opener in England. So things would be sorted.
Well, that's an interesting point they've made about David Malan and the batting order. Now it's time to talk about matchups. And we're going to now toss over to my colleague Tasmin Granger, who's going to introduce us the concept of matchup and explain our viewers about this particular matchup concept. Tasmin.
Yeah, so definitely what we basically want to do for you here is just give you an idea of more or less how teams break down probably their overs and what exactly strategy they're working from as well. So you have to look at it in phases of the game, probably what's happening in the first phase.
Yeah.
Being 1 to 10 overs. As you can see, the Netherlands versus Sri Lanka matchup here for today. This is the first power play. So something you need to understand is that this is the point in time whereby the game, the field is quite closed in as well. You just have 2 fielders outside. Most of the time, those people tend to be behind the batsman as well. So in this phase, Netherlands looking like they're going strong. Obviously, they do pretty well up in this phase because you have guys up their order that are willing to take on the bowlers as well and try and get them to unsettle their lines early up front.
So when you talk about the first to 10th over here, as we see, and we would request the PCR to change the slide and go on to a better one, which is far more readable. So when the matchups happen, what happens? What is the mindset in the first 10 overs from first to 10th over?
For what we've seen so far in the current World Cup, that's what's been going on right now, is a lot of batsmen that are currently batting first are looking to take on the seam bowlers or whoever the opening bowlers are of the first 10 overs and hoping to set a foundation for when the field is spread. If boundaries are not coming, then that's the phase where they look to run 1s and 2s very hard because they would have capitalized on boundary balls up front.
So when you look at the power play, what is the first thing that a batter looks at? Either consolidating the inning or hitting it out over the park?
I think they give themselves, as it is a 50-over game and not a T20 match, they give themselves that point in the game where they say,
Right.
look, we're taking 1 over,
Yes.
or we're taking 2 overs to see what the ball is actually doing. Where the batter is pitching it up, where the bowler is pitching it up, is it swinging, is there any movement? And once they pick the pace, once they pick the length of the delivery, then they're more than willing to take it on.
We've seen one thing here, that the pitch, when you pitch the ball up in the power play, the chances of getting wickets are far more as compared to, pitching it short.
Definitely, I think you have to obviously remember who you're playing against as well. You can't exactly bowl short balls to Rohit Sharma. We've mentioned this over and over again. He will take you on. That is his favorite shot as well. But if you have the pace, and the bounce in your attack, it's fine to put out that short ball here and there, hoping to create a chance. But if not, more purchases being found, not exactly bowling full, but on good length, I'd say, at about 65 to 75%, because you give the ball a chance to move and do things as well.
Now, for the viewers out there, sometimes the spinners come into the attack during power play as well. We've seen on 2-3 occasions. Now, you tell us what's going inside the batter's mind when they look at something like the matchups here, and then they take it forward. When you look at the first 10 overs between Netherlands and Sri Lanka, just take us through this list if you can see.
Okay, so obviously Sri Lanka has a lot more innings under their belt than the Netherlands, something to consider as well. The amount of bowlers used as well, Sri Lanka has more spin bowling options,
Yes,
definitely, than the Netherlands does have. Something as well to consider here is the runs scored. The runs scored in this phase, Sri Lanka's done a way better job at it than the Netherlands. as far as I'm concerned, because we do know they've always had the ability to bat deeper into their innings. But something to take into consideration right now is the Netherlands are fine at taking their time.
But the good point here, if you see the graph, there are 2 wickets each in the first 10 overs, which means that they are equally good or equally bad when it comes to the first 10 overs. So neck to neck, when you look at the first 10 overs, both teams look at par to each other. Now let's look at 11 to 40 out here, Tasmin. If you could go back and explain. Go back.
Definitely something for me that you need to take into consideration in, obviously this is the middle phase of the game. What's definitely happening in this phase is the field has opened up now.
Right.
So you have 4 fielders out. Predominantly right now we know that most batsmen's strengths are definitely hitting through the leg side, or you have guys like Roelof van der Merwe that are super comfortable coming down the track and hitting straighter. So ideally at this point, anybody bowling in the middle phase of the over is looking for the batsman to make the mistake more than for them to go looking out to create chances.
Absolutely. So if you see here, in the total number of matches, the bowlers are 22 for Netherlands and 28 for Sri Lanka. You must also realize at this stage, Netherlands is playing with a completely overhauled team. Do you know what happened last year when 8 of their top players had to go and fulfill their commitments in county, and guess what? You had the Vikramjit Singhs of the world and the Saqib, the spinners of the world coming in like a 19-year-old boy who came back to the team, and also Wesley, who's a 39-year-old fast bowler. So these guys all made a comeback to the team, and they took team to the qualifiers, won the qualifiers there with Sri Lanka, and they are here to play the the World Cup here. Now let's look at the last 10 overs between the two teams and see how it looks at this point of time. Tasmin, take us through.
Just something for you to take note on the wickets column in the period of 11 to 40 overs for me. Something that stands out for me is Sri Lanka definitely has 4 wickets. That's 2 wickets more than the Netherlands here. One thing you must remember is Sri Lanka's got a key spin bowling attack. Obviously, we've mentioned this before in past experiences that they are missing a key spin bowler in Hasaranga as well, who's not here but definitely played a pivotal role for them during the qualifiers.
So Sri Lanka loses 4 wickets as compared to?
They take 4.
They take 4 as compared to Netherlands, which takes 3.
Definitely.
So that's where the thing is, the Sri Lankans attack, they restrict their batters, the opponents, and also take wickets.
So the Sri Lankans actually in this runs conceded column right here, something you need to consider is they are pretty expensive in the last 10 overs. This probably been the case for them that they may not have the power in the seam bowling attack.
Right.
Or being the case that they do tend to use one spinner towards the end. And in this point, 41 to 50, guys are definitely always looking to take it on, always looking to maximize on whatever it is, especially with wickets in hand.
Well, with wickets in hand, people and the teams can actually go in the end and explode and look at scoring around 80-85 runs at the end. What's your favorite today? Which team is going to emerge as winner between Sri Lanka and Netherlands?
I'm definitely going with Netherlands on this one. They've got great momentum, obviously, coming with the big victory against South Africa. Not to mention, for me so far in the World Cup, they seem to have a great finishing trio for me in Roelof van der Merwe, as well as, Scott Edwards. He hasn't come in to have a bad yet. He's had a great game again, as well as against South Africa. Aryan Dutt is not scared to come out as well and just free his arms towards the end.
So is Vikramjit Singh. Well, on that note, we thank all our viewers for joining us on this wonderful show.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.